He is the chief economist for domestic policy at the Council of Economic Advisors at the White House. Aaron Hedlund, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'll just go ahead and jump right into these questions. I kind of gave our guests on the previous segment a briefing of you and your work. And so the first question that I have for you is, in order to eliminate Missouri's income tax, are we broadening the sales tax base?
So first of all, this is a generational opportunity, but the policy is actually very practical. I think that's an important point to get out there, just to motivate why we're doing this, which is that economically, Missouri has been bottom 10 for most of the past 25 years, and this is about growing the pie. Now, as far as what the amendment does, guarantees is that we're going to have a lower tax burden with the amendment compared to without it, because it puts in place revenue limits, and that helps us get the income tax rate down. To your question about the sales tax, it allows the base to be expanded. Does not automatically make that happen, though. It doesn't mandate it, just allows it. And if the base does get expanded, every single dollar of money that would come in from base expansion has to go towards income tax reduction. So there is zero scenario in which Jefferson City can spend more money because of the amendment.
I love your answers. Every time you give an answer, because I've heard you speak before on things, there's always so much information in such a short amount of time. I like it. The second question that I have is, does broadening the sales tax base, if that does happen, mean that our taxes for the individuals are increasing?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the overall tax burden will have to go down because of the amendment. And part of that's because, I mean, right now, over the past several years, government has grown at about twice the rate of inflation. And this amendment would ban that from happening. So that means an overall lower tax burden. The other thing that I think is really important for all your listeners is that everything they spend money on right now is already taxed. And it's taxed because the money was first taken out of their paycheck. And moreover, all the businesses that they're buying stuff from, all the workers there had their income tax, and that was put into the price of the things people bought. So this is absolutely a tax reduction kind of bill. And most importantly, it's an economic growth bill, because we want wages to grow faster than they have been. We don't want to lose out to states like Texas and Tennessee and Florida anymore, and this bill will help change that.
Yeah. So the main question everybody has, I would say, is, just to clarify, is the individual saving or losing money?
The average individual is going to be majorly saving money. They're going to be way out ahead. So, for example, done some math on this. The Council of Economic Advisors found that in a report released in January, so this is a White House report, that the average Missouri worker would see their wages grow by close to $3,000. And if you want to look at more specifics, we can look at a family where the family combined is making $60,000. They'd get about $2,500 ahead as a result of this. And then, different people at different income spectrums are all going to be coming out ahead because this grows the economy and shrinks the tax burden.
What spending cuts, if any, are tied to eliminating the income tax in Missouri?
So this doesn't specify what the specific cuts have to be. It really just puts a ceiling on the legislature. It basically says, hey, legislature, you can't be growing the government at twice the rate of inflation that you have been. So here's your budget. It basically provides an overall kind of limit there. And then the legislature will have to prioritize. And existing services are not cut. This is not something that's going to threaten things that people are accustomed to that are very important. And in fact, there's that specifically protects schools. So if anyone hears any concerns about schools, there's absolutely no remote possibility of harm there. But it means that if people come up with new pet projects or things that they want to do to grow government, they're not going to be able to do that.
What safeguards are in place to prevent future tax increases once the income tax is gone?
Yes, I'd say there's three things. First of all, once it goes away, it will be impossible to bring it back. I should say, it would require a separate constitutional amendment to ever reinstitute it, which I don't see that happening. Mm-hmm. Secondly, there's this kind of revenue limit protection that I mentioned, which is it would prevent government from growing. And then thirdly, any dollar of tax revenue from a sales tax change would have to be offset by at least $1 of income tax reduction. And on top of that, There's also, if you broaden the base, that applies to localities as well. Any dollars brought in from that would have to be offset by either sales tax rate reductions at the local level or property tax reductions. So there's zero scenario where this amendment would allow the tax burden in Missouri to go up.
Hmm. I know you mentioned this a little bit in the beginning, but what is something you wish people understood about this income tax elimination? I believe it's a ballot measure now. What's something you wish people understood?
Yeah, and for some reason I keep calling it a bill. This is an amendment, so all Missourians are going to have the ability to weigh in on this and voice what they think. I'd say the key thing here is we don't want to lose as a state anymore. Right? This is not about taking the pie and cutting up the pie in a different way. This is about getting a bigger pie. This is about how do we create a Missouri where when kids finish high school and they're thinking about their next step, they don't think to themselves, gee, I guess I got to go to Tennessee to really have the career I want to have. Or gee, to start a family, I really have to move to this other state to have to provide for my kids the most I'd want to be able to do. We don't want that to be Missouri. We want Missouri to be the place where people come to start a business, to expand a business, where workers can have whatever career they want to have. Other states have shown us the model, and it's about following and even improving upon that model. And then the upward potential for Missouri is unbounded.
Could you explain the pie in simple terms? I don't know if our listeners have heard of that before.
Yeah, so some states, wages grow a lot faster than us. Why does that happen? We're not unlucky. We didn't just pull the wrong straw out of the cup. We don't have bad dirt. It's about policy. And what grows wages is businesses investing and expanding and hiring and competing for workers. And states without an income tax, it's just a much more attractive environment for businesses to go there. So a lot of our most successful startups, many of them leave the state and they go to Florida, they go to Tennessee, they go elsewhere. And when they do that, they're bringing money and jobs with them. And that leaves fewer businesses here to kind of compete for workers to drive up wages. So what income tax elimination does is it stops the bleeding and instead of basically create a magnet. And so the more businesses we have here, the more job openings there are, the more wages go up, and the more prosperity that is. And that's what I mean by the bigger pie. There's more total income in the state, and that means everyone's slice can be bigger.
You mentioned stopping the bleeding. I've heard some other people say, well, we need to eradicate or eliminate property taxes first. Do you think that eliminating the income tax is more important to do first as far as potentially going in the most efficient chronological order because it stops the bleeding? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So first of all, I share everyone's frustration with property taxes. Everyone hates them. No one likes them. And especially when you've seen, house prices go up a lot over the past several years, and that kind of bleeds over into property taxes. Everyone hates it. Now, I'd say two things. One is this bill actually helps the cause of property tax reduction because any sales tax changes that occur would have to be offset at the local level by either lower sales tax rates or property tax reductions. So if people in, pick your town in Missouri, if they say, hey, look, our priority is lower property taxes, then the sales tax changes that this would authorize would be a great vehicle to then reducing local property taxes. But the other thing I would say is yes, in terms of getting more job openings and faster wage growth, the key impediment to that is the income tax. So while everyone hates the property tax, that's not what's holding back job growth. That's the income tax.
Yeah, I could probably do a whole segment on property taxes because it is interesting how it's set up and a lot of people don't quite understand it, myself included. There's a lot of things that I could learn. If this Missouri elimination of the income tax amendment doesn't pass when voted on, do you think that would be detrimental to our state?
It'd be a huge missed opportunity. I mean, if things were great in Missouri and there were nothing that we needed to do, then maybe it wouldn't be a big deal. But when I look at bottom 10, I mean, that's, people may not realize that because everyone's living their daily life and, hopefully, not focusing too much on bad news. But I do have to deliver the bad news, which is over the past 25 years, we've generally speaking been bottom 10 in the country. And society as a whole in Missouri is aging. And it's aging because the young people aren't staying and the workers aren't staying and people aren't coming. So we want Missouri to be a great place at every stage of life. Yes, we want it to be great for retirees, but we also want it to be great for people who are working and starting families. So this is the single best thing we can do to make sure that Missouri is going to be a growing, thriving state for everybody.
What would you say to people who think that the reason that people like you or me or politicians want to push this forward is for malicious intent?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm never going to say trust the politicians. Right? I mean, that's everyone. Skepticism is very healthy. And the first thing I'd say about the amendment is this actually empowers people and constrains the politicians because, again, it prevents revenue increases the way that we've been seeing them. So if your biggest concern is not trusting politicians and not trusting their money grabbing instincts, then vote for the amendment because the amendment limits that, prevents that. Beyond that, I would say this is not a risky experiment. You'll hear some people refer to Kansas and Kansas tried this, didn't seem to work. Kansas did not try this plan at all. They talked about income tax elimination, but they didn't have revenue triggers. They didn't have the kind of protections and approach that this does have. So I would just look to what has worked. It's working in Tennessee. It's working in Texas. It's working in Florida. People are voting with their feet. You don't have to trust the politicians. Trust the people who are voting with their feet and starting their businesses elsewhere.
All of those states you listed, I love. Where do you think all this misinformation came from as far as eliminating Missouri's income tax goes? Did it come from the Democrats? Did it come from somewhere else? What are your thoughts?
It's a mix. I mean, there are people who are malicious in terms of literally spreading misinformation and lies, and I would say, largely speaking, that's going to be people on the left end of the spectrum, and people who have carve-outs that they want to protect, or people who literally benefit and profit from larger government. And then there's other people who have legitimate concerns, and maybe they heard things mischaracterized, and that got them fearful, and they're expressing their concerns based on that. And so that's why people like myself and others, it's just really important to understand what the amendment really does, spread the truth, and I think as that truth spreads, people will see the great potential that this amendment has.
Hey, Aaron, I wanted to jump in here and ask something too. The wording of this amendment is very confusing. Man, dumb this thing down and let me know what the heck is going to happen. But the wording on it is just confusing to people like me, who I consider myself just a normal citizen of Missouri.
First of all, I'd say the ballot language itself that people will vote on, I think that language is fairly clear and pretty simple. But I totally understand that when people look at the full amendment text that has references to this provision, that provision, and there's a lot of legalese, and some of that stuff is hard to avoid. But the way I would explain to people what fundamentally does the amendment do, it says the following. It says government is going to have a revenue limit. You're not going to be able to bring in money at the growing rates that we've had in the past. If revenue comes above that limit, you get automatic income tax reductions. So it's an automatically enforced limit on revenue where the result is income tax reductions. It also allows the legislature to broaden the sales tax base, which would frankly make it fairer, because right now the entire sales tax base is entirely on goods, which low-income people tend to spend more money on, whereas luxury services aren't in there. But if the legislature does use that authority to broaden the sales tax base, they can't keep any of the money. Every single dollar, at least, would have to go towards income tax reduction at the state level and property tax or sales tax reduction at the local level. So that's what it does. It's really a two-piece revenue limit with an automatic income tax reduction, and then the authority to broaden the sales tax base, but any money would have to go towards income tax reduction and property tax reduction.
Yeah.
That's the core.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was
great
it for
answer.
me.